2023 preseason continues to roll along, but not without continuous questions about the state of the evolving team and roster. Hello everybody, you are listening to Miami Total Football Radio, where the beautiful game collides with passion and analysis. This lovely podcast is also known as Miami Total Football Radio, and I am one of your usual weekly co-hosts. My name is Franco Panizo. Here on this podcast, we provide you with all the latest news, updates, analysis, opinions, inside information, general punditry, arepa reviews sometimes, and much more via a team of seasoned South Florida-based reporters. Joining me this week once again are the dynamic duo that is Jose Armando, a.k.a. Island Jose, and Andrea Yanez, a.k.a. Ajicita. So we're jumping right into it because we went long last week, so we're going to try to stay within our usual time frame or our desired time frame this week. So, Jose, 2 sentences. How are you?
I'm good. I think, this is a very important pod because we need to give some insight on what happened over the weekend against St. Louis. And so people were not able to watch that game. So I'm happy to get started and happy to be back in the pod. I haven't missed one this year, haven't I?
That's good.
So
good. There we go.
I'm really proud about that.
Let's keep it rolling. Jose. Don't jinx yourself now. Knock on wood. Andreita, how are you today? Welcome back. Second week in a row for you, I think. So, yeah, how's it going?
Glad to be back. Eager to start. We have many opinions. We have fight. We have controversial opinions. We have different views because
especially you.
That is what we do. But today is going to be interesting. We're going to talk about it. We have news, we have games, we have fun. So join us because today is going to be a special one.
There we go. So yes, as they just mentioned, we will talk about Inter Miami's most recent game against St. Louis City, the most recent preseason friendly. There's another one coming up on Thursday against the New England Revolution. We got some players to touch on, including a new addition, a few other things as well, including some formations, tactics. This one will be probably a bit more tactical than the last few weeks. We'll dive into the X's and O's probably a little bit more, which I enjoy. So I'm ready for that. Jose, before we get into it all, I said last week that you would provide your thoughts on the Joseph Martinez arepa that you tried during the Vasco da Gama friendly at the start of preseason. We did not do that last week because the pod ran long, so you did not share those thoughts at the end. So we'll do it at the beginning here. Quick thoughts, your impressions on the Joseph Martinez pink arepa.
Well, I give it a solid 6. I think, I had two. So that was great. So my second one, I think it was too late. It was just too late. It was a little bit cold. So I'm assuming, we're supposed to eat that at least warmed up. But so my second one was not as good as my first one. So I give it a 6.
I think it packs a punch, right? It's got a lot there. It's got a lot of chicken, a lot of cheese. The look is cool. The aesthetic of the arepa is cool, but it definitely packs a punch. Leaves you full for sure. It's not bad. I don't know if it's the best arepa I've ever had in my life, but like Joseph Martinez, it packs a punch. All right, we'll leave our arepa reviews to the side. We've got plenty of football to talk about. So, guys, let's get to it. Okay, before we dive into the X's and O's and share our insight, our observations, our thoughts, and our analysis into this most recent preseason friendly, let's quickly touch on something that we did discuss last week, but when we talked about it on last week's pod, it was just based off of my report. Now it's official. Emerson Rodriguez has been loaned to Santos Laguna in Mexico for the entire 2023 season. The interesting wrinkle is that the loan comes with an option to buy. So let's quickly just start here before we get into the game. What do you guys make of there being an option to buy in Emerson Rodriguez's loan deal to Santos? Jose.
Well, first off, I think it's a good move for both parts. I think Inter Miami and especially Phil. I don't think Emerson was ever, a piece that fit perfectly what he wants to do tactically. And so, it was, even though Phil did recognize that, he failed to give him more minutes during his time here, he's obviously saying this after he's gone. So, I don't know how much value there is into that, but, we take it as it is. And I think for Emerson, it's a great opportunity. Actually, I think that's an upgrade. Going to Liga, the intensity is higher there. Playing for Santos it's not a bad team at all. So I think it's good. I think it's going to be good for him. And yeah, with the option, I don't see him coming back. Honestly, I think he's going to have success there. I think he's going to get opportunities. He's exactly the type of player that usually is successful in the Mexican League. A lot of pace and a lot of energy. So, I think if it goes well, and I think that's going to happen, he might not come back to Inter Miami.
Andrea, I know you get really, really passionate about debates regarding Emerson Rodriguez, so let's hear it.
No, I think I agree with Jose. It's gonna be better for his career. Santos is a better team, a team that has won it all, a team that competes internationally, a team that plays in a better league. And I think he's gonna have a coach that would trust him there, because if they requested him, he may seem interesting for the coach. Think that didn't happen here, as Phil said when he was asked in the press conference where after Emerson was announced to leave. But the funny thing is, to me, is that he says that he expects him to return, but then the team loans him out with an option to buy. And an option to buy for a Mexican team is very easy, because obviously they have more money than MLS teams. And usually when a player goes on loan there, he ends up staying. So it's now up to Emerson. But as Jose said, the Mexican League is the perfect step for Emerson, because for his game, how the game is played there, players like Emerson and with his characteristics become goal scorers, become assists. They have a lot of assists, and then they go to other bigger teams in Europe or in other bigger teams in the same league. So I expect that from Emerson. I don't think he's coming back to Miami. He did not have a good experience. I think it was the best option for him, and I'm excited to see what he does with Santos.
There's a lot to unpack there, because you guys said a lot of interesting things. Some I agree with, some I don't. I think you both made it seem like Emerson Rodriguez is going to go to Santos and light it up, which I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think he could be a good piece, maybe, that fares better and has better performance levels, better rendimiento than he did at Inter Miami, where his playing time was pretty sporadic. I mean, he saw the field, but not a whole lot of minutes. So I don't necessarily see him taking that big jump. I do agree with Jose and you that a player like him, a player that likes to be on the dribble and take players on, un gambeteador, I think that suits the Liga MX better than it does in MLS. So yes, I think there might be more of a chance for him to succeed, but I don't think he's going to be miles better than we saw in South Florida. But that's just my opinion. Jose, you did say something that was interesting to me about, Phil Neville's admission during the press conference, which took place on Friday, right? The pregame press conference before the St. Louis City friendly, also to introduce Nicola Stefanelli and Franco Negri, which we'll dive into in a little bit more detail later on in the pod. So, yeah, Phil Neville did say, maybe I was a bit too conservative last year, and because we were in pressure situations, and maybe I could have done better in giving him more time, but he needs minutes to continue to develop. Phil Neville said the right things publicly, but I agree that look, if there's an option to buy 1 year after you transferred him into the club, then clearly you're okay with moving on. So, and I don't think that's just Phil Neville. I think that's Phil Neville and Chris Henderson. Whatever happened, on the field combined with maybe off the field has led to them being, like, okay, we're okay with parting ways. Even though he's young, even though he's got potential, even though he could come with a transfer fee later on if you sell him. Maybe it's an admission on their part that they got it wrong on this one. The piece just didn't fit how they expected to or how they thought it might. So, interesting that it does have an option to buy. Look, he could easily come back because if he doesn't have a great season, then, he's still under contract with Inter Miami in 2024. He could easily be back. So I won't say there's no way he comes back. I don't know if Santo will trigger that option. It depends on how he performs. So we might not have seen the last of Emerson Rodriguez with Inter Miami. I will say this because, I do think it is a piece of the puzzle. How big of a piece? Well, open to interpretation. He definitely was not happy with his role as a spot starter. And I will share an anecdote with you guys. I covered an Inter Miami 2 game last season, and I was the only one in the press box. After the game, I think they played New York City FC 2, if I'm not mistaken. After the game, Jairo Quinteros was the player that did the availability. He had scored in that game. This is before he left. And I spoke to him about the goal and about his playing time and not really playing on the first team. And Quinteros, in a very professional way, said, yeah, he would like to be playing more, but he respects the decisions. But you could tell, which is normal, natural, I've talked about this, that Quinteros was frustrated by his role with the team, his diminished role with Inter Miami. Emerson Rodriguez, I don't know if they were riding together or what, but he came into the room where the interview was happening, and he just sat there. And then once Jairo Quinteros finished the interview, Emerson spoke out loud and was like, "Whew, man," he's like, "that was pretty impressive." He was like, "Whew, I don't know if I could do that." So I spoke to Emerson. We just had a conversation, and he was pretty frustrated that he won. He knew he didn't play well in that game against NYCFC 2. But he also was frustrated with his lack of playing time and his role. Because like you guys have touched on in many, many pods, he came from Millonarios team in Colombia where he was a regular figure, whether he was, the key guy or no, I'm not saying that. But he was a key contributor. And then he came to Inter Miami, and then here he was looked at as a project. Got some playing time, but not nearly as much as he would have liked. So I think that part definitely plays a piece in this. That he probably wanted to move away as much as probably Inter Miami did. Jose, you were going to say something.
It's an upgrade for him. It's an upgrade for him. He's going to get more playing time, and they're not excuses over there. Like Phil said in his press conference that he is not accustomed to living in a big city, that he didn't speak the language. It's like, we're in Miami, man. We're not in Kansas City, Missouri. So I think there was not a good relationship between Phil and Emerson. I think Emerson resented that he didn't get an opportunity. So I think it was the best. It was the best for both parts, but definitely he upgraded, and I think he's going to do well in Santos.
I wouldn't go as far as to say there wasn't a good relationship, but I would say this. Given the formation that we have seen in preseason this year, there's no way Emerson. There's no way he can play. Honestly, there's just no way. Whether they have a good relationship or not with the head coach, there's no way. There's just no way. I mean, I don't see Emerson playing as an 8, and I don't see Emerson playing as a striker.
As a 9, right? So there's really no space for him. We'll dive into the tactics a little bit more because that is going to be the crux of this show, the main point of this week's podcast. So let's start. We'll close it. We'll leave it there with Emerson. We'll obviously keep tabs on him throughout the season in Mexico and see how he does. Also, not forget, he will play in the Leagues Cup for Santos. So something that, could have an impact against MLS teams. Not Inter Miami necessarily, but, something to keep an eye on. Moving on to Inter Miami's friendlies. After that Vasco da Gama game, they played 2 friendlies. So since we last recorded, they've played 2 more exhibitions. They played FIU last Wednesday. And like I said on last week's pod, I would get that result. I would provide that result for you guys. For the listeners, for the readers, for everyone out there, for the general public. And Inter Miami won that game 4-1. The details that I got were that Inter Miami played, again, two separate teams, one in each half. They played what you would presume to be their backups in the first half, and then they played their presumed starters in the second half. I hope I said that correctly. But yes, and Inter Miami won that game 4-1. Now, at the end of the first half, the score was 1-1. Jake Lacava scored for Inter Miami, but Inter Miami also gave up a goal. Once the starters came in the second half, they pulled away. They made the difference. Leonardo Campana scored a brace, and there was an own goal from FIU. So 4-1 victory for Inter Miami. That was their first win of the 2023 preseason, and it came 4 days after that 3-0 defeat to Vasco da Gama. Fast forward a few more days, 3 more days, and we're at Florida Blue Training Center, aka Inter Miami's practice facility in Fort Lauderdale, and media was able to attend that game. Media was not able, I was not able to attend that match against FIU, but we were able to, and we were present for Inter Miami versus St. Louis City. And Inter Miami lost in lopsided fashion. 4-0 defeat. The game winner, coincidentally enough, just for narrative purposes, came from Indiana Vassilev on a spectacular, stunning, sensational free kick in the 37th minute. Un golazo. And we'll talk about it in more detail because it left Jose and I with our jaws on the grass there on the sidelines, and maybe Andrea too, but I didn't think Andrea was trying to snap some shots, so I don't know. I didn't get a good look at her reaction. Lucas Bartlett scores in the 62nd to make it 2-0. Samuel Edeniran in the 87th, or Edeniran in the 87th, and Celio Pompeo penalty kick in the 106th. This game was played in 4 30-minute periods, and it was done so, I assume, predominantly to get everyone the same, or a lot of the bulk of Inter Miami's players and St. Louis players, more minutes. So the starting group in that game played 60 minutes, and then the second group played the final 60 minutes. So an increase from the 45 minutes that they had been playing in the previous 2 matches, right? Extra 30 minutes there so that you can up the fitness levels a little bit there. So this was Inter Miami's starting lineup. I won't go through every single change that was made, but I will give the starting lineups in each half. In the first period, it was Drake Callender in goal. Inter Miami came out in that 4-4-2 diamond. So DeAndre Yedlin, Ame Mabika, Christopher McVeigh, Noah Allen was the back 4. Gregory was your 6. Your 2 number 8s, your 2 box-to-box midfielders were Robert Taylor on the right, Rodolfo Pizarro on the left. Corentin Coco Jean occupied the 10th spot, and then up top you had Leonardo Campana and Ariel Lassiter. I will, again, the only change in the second period was that Nick Marsman replaced Drake Callender. Third period lineup, Nick Marsman stayed in goal, and then you had wholesale changes. And this time, and we will get to this later on, but in the third period, not only did the personnel change, the formation changed. Inter Miami switched to call it a 3-5-2. We've always said that given the personnel, it's a 5-3-2, regardless of how advanced the wingbacks are. But this was the personnel. Israel Boatwright as the right wingback, Tyler Hall, Modesto Mendez, and Kieran Gibbs, your 3 center backs from right to left, Harvey Neville, the left wingback. In the midfield, you had Victor Ulloa as the 6, Benjamin Kramashi and Nicolas Stefanelli as the 2 advanced 8s, and Robbie Robinson, Jake Lacava as your striker pair. Okay, so we've gone through the lineups, we've gone through the goals, we've given the recap. Quick takeaway, very quick, because we're going to go into a lot of this game. Jose, a very quick takeaway. Your biggest quick takeaway, go for it.
Well, I think it was the main thing for me, and I'll go back to the first game against Vasco da Gama. After that in the pod, I did mention that I liked the way Inter Miami was moving the ball. As they were pushing forward, they were quick with the passes, finding spaces, and I liked that a lot. Unfortunately, that was not there against St. Louis. And obviously, it's not the end of the world. They were not the best team after the first game against Basco because they did that. They're not the worst because they couldn't do it against St. Louis. So I think that that's the one thing because obviously I thought that was progress when I saw it against Basco, and I thought, man, if they can do that, they can be very entertaining and they will score a lot of goals. Well, that didn't happen against St. Louis. And moving forward, I think that's the way to go. They need to move the ball faster in the attacking part of the field for them to be successful.
So Phil did speak to media on Tuesday, and he was asked about the game, and he said that they're not really planning for games. It's just part of their preseason process. I like that he was honest, and when he was asked, if he had any positive takeaways or anything encouraging or any player stood out, he like kind of like scratched his head and was like, not really. And he said he expected better. He tried to give some reasoning for the result, but at the end of the day, even though it's only preseason, I mean, losing 4-0 is pretty ugly. And it's not like they played a mixed lineup. They played the starters for 60 minutes. Those players could not come up with a goal. Then they played, obviously, a second group that is, had a lot of players from Inter Miami too, a lot of young players. So can't really overly analyze that because they're just not at that level yet. And it's not a team that you expect has gotten a lot of repetition together. Harder to analyze those 60-second minutes. But still, losing 4-0, not scoring a single goal, not really generating a whole lot in the attack. I mean, from the run of play, it was not very pretty. And you and I were both in agreement. I don't know if Andrea concurs, if she wants to make it 3 for 3. For the listeners, obviously, they couldn't see this game. This game wasn't streamed anywhere. Inter Miami, as a matter of fact, didn't even tweet out anything about this game. St. Louis City SC did. They were live tweeting. They were posting pictures, which you understand, though. They're an expansion team. They're trying to drum up interest before, they start. So you get it. But Inter Miami just...
And let me tell you, Inter Miami didn't. And it's disappointing because it's a preseason game. I understand they want to maintain some sort of expectation, but they should have. Especially if St. Louis did it, they should have done it. But I agree with you guys. And I'm eager to start discussing
Andrea, really quickly, because I just want to know if you agree. Jose and I are in agreement on Saturday. Well, we stood there from the sidelines that the best spell of play for Inter Miami were the final 15 minutes of that first 30-minute period. They started very poor in that period. But once they found their footing, they gained a little bit more control. They found a way to, I don't want to say get into the final third a lot more, but they started to find some semblance of success in terms of attacking sequences. Noah Allen, I think, had the best shot of the game in that first period where he received the pass on the left, cut in and tried to hit a shot to the far right post, and it just went past. So I think that was Inter Miami's best chance of the night, and it came on a decent sequence where I believe Leonardo Campana took a long ball from Mabika, he chested it down to Ariel Lassiter, and Ariel Lassiter dribbled forward and then fed Noah Allen on the left to create what I just described a few seconds ago. So I think that was the best moment. Jose did too, unless he's changed his mind since then. Andrea, did you agree with that, or did you think there was a better moment for Inter Miami during that game?
No, I agree with that. I think that I was going to say that moment in the game was one of the positives, or maybe the only positive I saw from the starters in the two halves, if we can call them, the two first 30 minutes that they played.
We'll call them periods. You can call them quarters if you want, but that's too American football like.
Yes,
so
please.
Let's dang, Andrea.
I'm not doing that to football, please.
Okay, so we'll call it periods. Let's call it periods.
Periods.
Okay.
Yes. So, and the first two periods, and I think that is the positive, and they can build with that because we saw how the players in attack have a good first touch, and if they do play with first touches, we saw what this team is capable to do, what this team should be capable to do by being dangerous with players like Campana, Ari, and the wing backs, the whatever you want to call them, coming up to attack Yedlin and Noah Allen. And obviously, the two players that are out of position, Pizarro and Robert Taylor, also need to come up forward and be more attacking. The problem with that is that you get a hole in the middle. Like we stood there and we talked about it. We're gonna discuss it, obviously, moving forward. But the positive thing was that spell, those last minutes, they were playing really well. They were passing the ball with the first touch. So I think if Inter Miami gets to build that up, they're gonna be a good team this season.
But
Okay.
the problem is, and I don't know if you guys agree, is that we have seen that for against St. Louis, we saw it for 10 to 15 minutes, and that was out of the 120 they played. That was the best moment, and they looked good, but it was just 15 minutes.
Yeah,
Against
that's true.
Basco, they did it as well, but for how long did they do it? I mean, the starters played for 45 minutes, so they could have done it at the most for 20, 25 minutes. That's not going to be enough in the regular season, and you need to keep that up for a long time. If that's going to be your identity, you cannot commit mistakes in the middle.
So
And
you are in Franco's and I's boat now. Franco and me,
Yes,
or
because he
however
goes
you
last.
say it,
Thank you,
that we
Andrea.
don't like the
Thank you.
formation, that this formation is a mistake,
when did I
or
say that I
what,
like the
Jose?
formation?
What?
I think the for
Then how are you
I've
gonna
always
change
been
what you're
said.
saying? How are you
No, I
going
don't.
to change it if you play the same?
I said that four two
Love
two
it.
two is my ideal formation. That's what I
Right. You
said.
did say
But
that, but you also, Jose, you also
You
were
said that
like,
the
oh,
Diamond
it's,
Crew were
you were like,
there.
it's too
You guys are in
early.
preseason,
Yeah,
blah.
yes,
too early.
exactly.
Yes,
As
yes.
Andrea
I
said
think
last
things
week,
can
blah, blah,
change.
blah on your behalf. A lot of blah, blah, blah.
Things can
Now
change.
you're giving us. Are you giving us the
La razón.
la razón?
No,
Yes,
Are you
exactly.
but
giving us the reason? Are you saying we were correct? Listen, I said after the first game, and you thought I was jumping to conclusions way too early that the diamond formation, I don't think it can work given the personnel. They need a 10. And we'll dive into that in a second. They need a 10. For that thing to work, they need a 10. And they don't have a true 10 right now. Not one that I think can do it on a consistent basis in MLS anyway. So that's one part of it. Now, I get the idea. I get, they want to have more numbers in the attack. They want to push numbers forward. That they want the fullbacks, because that's going to be a parenthesis in a second, that the fullbacks will provide the width. I get the idea. And I get that they want to work with that personnel. But I don't necessarily think it best suits the qualities of the players that you have if you're Inter Miami. That's just my opinion. Now,
I think we all agree on that. The problem is that they are way too exposed defensively, and since they are playing,
I don't think that's the biggest problem though, Jose. I think the biggest problem is what we talked about on Saturday evening during the game. That diamond midfield, while they can knock the ball around in the middle third and do all that, and while that looks better, there's no profundity to the attack. There's no real penetration to get into the final third. They very rarely got into the final third. And yes, this is game 3 of preseason, but you can see the trend start to develop. And yes, they will continue to work on it, work on the automatismos, the movements and the repeated patterns of play. But we've now seen 2 games against non-collegiate opponents, and that midfield diamond looks more like a black hole. Like, they can't move the ball. They don't progress it any more than the middle third on a consistent basis. They struggle to find ways to do so. Rodolfo Pizarro's playing on the left side as an 8. I don't necessarily think that's a bad position for him. I don't know if Robert Taylor's an 8.
Not an 8. I can agree with Pizarro without a doubt.
But Robert Taylor is
Robert
not.
Taylor is playing out of position. Ari Lassiter is playing out of position, and Coco is playing out of position. I think those 3 players, they have the talent. They are very good with the ball. But the problem is they're playing out of position.
Out of position, exactly.
If you take Robert Taylor and Ari Lassiter and put them through the wings, you'll get so much more out of them. So much more. And obviously, we have seen that here in Inter Miami. Now, with Coco, I don't know where he plays, honestly. I don't know where we can get the most out of him in terms of, okay, let's think he's our Miami top football player, and we need to find a place for him in the media game. I don't know where to put him. I don't know where to put him but to me, he's not a 10. Right now, he's not a 10, and he's not doing enough in that.
He had one good pass in that first 30-minute period, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it was the second 30-minute period. But he had one good pass where he hit a through ball in, I believe it was to Lassiter, and the flag went up for offside. But it was a good through ball, and it played Lassiter into space. But I agree that he doesn't necessarily look like a 10. Doesn't in what we've seen so far from
Listen, is that the bottom line with this formation? I think there are too many players out of position, and those players out of position, as Jose is saying, could play better if they played in their national position.
Right,
you can have one player out of position that can have a good game, can have a good run, but when you have a lot of, we're talking here about Ari. In only that formation for the two periods, we have Ari out of position, we have Robert Taylor out of position, we have Pizarro out of position, we have Coco out of position. So it's almost 5 players out of position, and you're like,
Pizarro.
I don't know about Pizarro. Yeah, you just contradicted yourself because you said Pizarro was okay.
No, but Pizarro was okay, but that is his not his.
I think that could be his position. I think that could be
his natural position.
What is his natural position? He's not a 10. He's not a 10. He's not a winger. So I think it could be a solution to what his position is.
And I have one more problem with that situation with especially with Pizarro and Taylor. I'm not 100% sure that they can be 2 box-to-box players. You know, we emphasize on what they're doing when Inter Miami has the ball. Now, what are they doing when they don't have the ball?
Exactly.
And when they have to play defense? Because if you leave Gregory all by himself in the middle, that's not going to be ideal.
Exactly.
You know, so they have to do a lot more defensive.
That is what I mean. Because Pizarro and Taylor have now that added responsibility when they are not defensive-minded players.
Well, there's an interesting part there. And before we dive a little bit more into it, we do have to note something that we have not noted yet. Inter Miami is missing a few starters, right? A few projected starters. And then that can make it for a very interesting conversation and something I do want to dive into. I don't know if we will have the time today. But who was out? Jean Mota was out. I expect Jean Mota to be in the starting lineup when he's healthy. Franco Negri did not play in this game. The new Argentine left back that arrived, he's trained with the team, but he just wasn't fit enough yet to play. So he didn't play in that game. He's the presumed starter at left back. Joseph Martinez also did not play, still working his way up to fitness. He's expected to play on Thursday against the New England Revolution in what will be his unofficial debut. The new center back, Damian Lowe, had just been traded. And now Sergii Kryvtsov, I think I pronounced it right. Perfect. If not, excellent. I will work on it. But
no, excellent. An excellent job.
Thank you. I hope that's correct. He also did not play in this game. So how many starters is that? Is that 1? That's 2, 3, 4. And then if you want to throw a 10 in there, if they can go find a 10 or Pozuelo or whatever, then you're talking about
that 10 is Stefanelli.
Well, okay,
he already said.
Okay, so then you've got 5. 5 starters. Inter Miami was projected, or at least I'm projecting them to be down. So that is a good bit of quality to be missing. Nonetheless, the players out there are good enough to play better than they played. I agree that the being out of position is a part of it. I just don't know if this diamond formation, because of said reason that a lot of these players are out of position, I don't know if it'll work. I guess we have to see it more with the ideal team or the projected team. The issue there is, though, that if you don't have those ideal pieces in place all the time, then do you have the pieces on the bench to, serve as backups, as true backups that can have the same función, the same responsibility? I mean, right now, the early signs in preseason are no. Maybe the best team or the best version of this Inter Miami can play that 4-4-2 diamond very, very well. But if they're not around, if you can't get that best 11, do the backups have what it takes to keep that performance level high?
I want to add one thing also. Please, when Pizarro is playing, he needs to take care of the corners, of the free kicks. Please, Jesus Christ, stop putting someone else to do it. Please,
Listen.
I'm begging the Lord, please.
I will bang this drum. I don't know if I agree with that 100%, but I will bang this drum because I've
At
asked...
least, I guess Joseph, I have seen him get some good free kicks. I expect Stefanelli to be a good free kicker also. But with the starters that we saw in this game, I think it should be without a doubt Pizarro taking those balls.
So
But
who took them? Let's for the listeners that couldn't watch the game, who took the set pieces? We saw Pizarro take some. We saw Robert Taylor take some.
Robert Taylor. Yeah.
Anyone else?
Coco take some.
Coco take some. We even saw Victor Ulloa, although he was with the second group. He took a free kick late on.
Yeah, that was the second group. Yeah.
But still, I would never thought I would see Victor Ulloa taking a free kick, except maybe in FIFA. But besides that, I didn't think I would see it. But he almost put it in. But I'm banging this drum because I've asked about set pieces for 3+ seasons now. And look, Inter Miami was not good from the run of play by and large. And they still were not good from set pieces. They were not threatening from set pieces at all. At all. Yet again. Like, listen, you're going to have games where he's going to be poor from the run of play. But then the set piece can help open that game for you. It can unlock that game, unlock the opposing defense, and get you into it and change the whole complexion of the game. And Inter Miami still struggles there. Or still struggled there in this one. They were not even close to dangerous. And Jose, you put a video that I thought was very interesting last week after practice of a drill that Amema Bika was doing with, I forget which of the members of the technical staff.
Jason Christ.
It was Jason Christ, post-practice, doing a header drill. But he wasn't receiving corner kicks. He was receiving, Jose, you can say it better than I can. It's your video.
Yeah, hand crosses.
Hand crosses. Underhanded hand crosses.
Yeah. I remember that drill. I think I was probably, 7 years old when I was doing that drill back in school. I don't know if that's how things are done nowadays here, but it seems like that's something that he should have worked on a long time ago. Especially with him being a center back, having limited opportunities, and the best opportunity for him to score, especially with his height, it's set pieces. I just don't know. But I'll say this, Inter Miami, they have to figure so many things out before they go to set pieces. I think they need to find a way to make things work. And if you don't score a lot from set pieces, but you score from the run of play, people are not going to care.
Oh, of course. But you need to have as many weapons in your arsenal as possible, so that if one doesn't work, well, then you can lean on the other one to help you get out of a jam. We didn't see either one from Inter Miami here. Either one. I do think the not having a true 10, I think that is another factor here. If they could, I'm sure in an ideal world, although they probably wouldn't say this publicly, I imagine Chris Henderson and Phil Neville, if they could find someone to buy Rodolfo Pizarro tomorrow, they would sell him, they would re-sign Pozuelo or some other number 10 that's a more true number 10, and then, use that player in that position in that system. But right now, they don't have a true number 10. And I think that's going to be a big part of the problem.
In this point, I think Phil already we need to stop saying he doesn't have a number 10. He needs to work with what he has. He already knew when he signed his extension what the situation with Pizarro, that they didn't have any suitors to buy him. He knew that situation when he signed. He knew the situation that Pozuelo maybe couldn't come back. He knew all that. So I think it's time. It's already his third year. He's going to be his third year here. So it's time for him to start working with what he has, and for us to see him work with what he has, find a good formation,
absolutely.
Find a good fit. And in these two games that we have seen in preseason, we have not seen that yet. So hopefully before February 25, we see like a road to that, at least for them to start the season in a good way. Well,
we won't see much more the rest of the way because the remaining, all but one of the remaining preseason friendlies are behind closed doors. Now, again, and the
one against Emelec is canceled.
Well, we'll get there. I'll do my best to get the scores for those remaining closed door friendlies. I'm going to do my best. when I report one, the team might try to close the iron fist a little bit tighter to make sure.
I want to say that Franco is he's being how do you say it in English? He's being shot. He's being put a muscle on.
I don't know. I don't know what you were trying to say there, but I think I know what you're trying to say, but I'm not sure. But no, I'll do my best. Look, the team's going to try even harder to try to make sure that nothing filters
Franco
out.
doesn't know.
But I will do my reporting best to keep you guys informed, because that's what we're here for. Yeah. And besides, our discussion and our dialogue and the updates, we're here to inform what's going on. So I will do my best. I'll do my best. Now, that last game, Andrea, that you just mentioned against Emelec is no longer coming. It seems, this is not confirmed, it seems like the opponent for that final preseason friendly, which will be at DraftKings Stadium, it is open to the general public, it will be against Austin FC. That's what it looks like. If you go to Ticketmaster right now, the opponent that's listed as playing Inter Miami is Austin FC. So that looks like the candidate that has lined up to replace Emelec for that final preseason friendly. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's on the 18th, February 18th. So not too far away from here now. Jose, let's talk about a positive performance. Did anybody impress you between both teams? Did anybody impress you from both groups, for Inter Miami? And don't say, don't say Indiana Vassilev, because I know you're trying to get cheeky.
No. Well, I thought St. Louis, they were just okay. I never thought they were impressive. So but if that makes it a little bit more worrisome for Inter Miami fans, then that's the reality. St. Louis is not a very good team.
But they peppered Inter Miami in the first 15 minutes. They were on top of Inter Miami. Inter Miami couldn't get out of its own half in the first 15 minutes of the game.
Because they did pressure. They did pressure in the middle, and they forced Inter Miami to commit mistakes in the middle. And they gave the ball away very quickly. They were not able to come through with the buildup. And, MLS teams, they like to run a lot. And, that's something that Vasco da Gama didn't do, and yet they were able to win the game, So that's why I think it's a little bit risky, the formation, especially when you're not good enough in the middle and you're giving the ball away, which is something that will happen every now and then. Even to, the top teams, just don't have a good day or one mistake can cost you the game. But, going back to your question, I think Noah Allen was the only player, within those 10 to 15 minutes that Inter Miami was good, that showed some progress moving forward. But I won't fully say that, Noah Allen was impressive or, something to think about when it comes to the starting 11 for the first game of the regular season, because defensively there's the challenge for him. I think he's talented enough to play, in the middle, maybe moving forward, more like a winger. I don't know if he's strong enough within his build, but defensively it's always a challenge for him. So again, I've said it from day one. I don't think he's a left back just because, he can play okay defense, but not good enough. So, but I would highlight him. I don't think there's any other way to go.
Andrea, anybody else?
I agree with Jose, but I also liked Ariel Lassiter in the chances that he had, not as a 9, but when he came down and he assisted. We talked about the best play that we saw. I really liked Ariel, but when he came down, I think he's going to be an important player for this team. And I agree with Jose in regards of Noah Allen. I'm eager to see the new center back. I'm eager to see the competition in the right back, because DeAndre's, what we've seen in these 2 games, he's been a little bit inconsistent. But I think, Ariel Lassiter and Noah Allen were, for me, positives in this game.
Right. One more thing.
Go ahead.
It's very easy for people to think that, the team is struggling at this point because maybe of what we're saying or the against the pro teams. They conceded 7 goals and they have yet to score against the pro team in preseason. But I would say this: I think the effort is there. I think the players, they want to make things work for Phil. Now, I don't know if at some point, if it doesn't work, Phil might be able to realize, or the coaching staff as a whole, maybe it's not our way. Maybe we need to figure this out and maybe listen to the players. And I'm sure if you ask Gary Lassiter where he wants to play, he's going to say through the wings. I mean, I think that's a given. So I just want to tell people that the effort is there. So
yes,
there's still a
I
lot
agree with that.
There's still plenty of time, and they might be able to make things work.
And that is why I was saying, especially that it's time for Phil to realize that and maybe not get married to a formation since the beginning of the season.
And we can decipher that or dive into that a little bit. Because there's two different philosophies. You can play or mold your system to the players you have, which I think that's what all three of us would do. Or you can mold your players to the system you want, which is what it looks like Phil Neville's doing. That's the route he's going, and that's the gamble he's going to take and what he'll be judged on if he sticks with it. Again, I think Phil Neville has shown he is adaptable. I think if this formation does not bear fruit in short order, I think he'll revisit it and either change the personnel or look for a different system to go with from the start. But right now, this is what they're doing. They're going with the diamond. They're trying to see how it works. Look, Inter Miami tried to build out from the back, from the start. And there was one play, where they were passing it along the back, and there's still concerns there. Again, not Inter Miami's maybe strongest team. Maybe the Ukrainian center back will help improve things in that regard. But, there was one play early on where Mabika played a pass to Drake Callender, and Drake Callender flubbed the control, and it went out for a corner kick for St. Louis City. So, mistakes like that were common for Inter Miami. Not necessarily across the back, but just in terms of the sharpness during those first 30 minutes, maybe even an extension to the 60 minutes. Just couldn't get their footing consistently. Couldn't find each other. To me, they looked a team that was a bit confused on the field as to how to find solutions.
100%, yeah.
And I agree with that. And listen, it can also be that the league has a lot of vacations, a lot of rest for the players, so it's gonna be difficult for them to come and perform 100% in the same in the start of the preseason. So I think we will have to wait for like the games in this month, in February, in this month that is coming, to maybe see the truer Inter Miami. So,
but that's what I'm saying. We might not see it. We might not see it until that last game, and then how much are we going to see the week before they start this regular season? I'll say one last thing about the performance and what I think the team is missing right now. Again, I've said it number 10, but what I think is a more underlying issue is that with this formation, and at least with this personnel, they don't have any real dynamism to their play. There's no really dynamic way for this team to get forward. And I think that's why you don't see them penetrate that final third all that much. Because they don't have a true number 10. Neither of their 2-8s are... you could say Robert Taylor's a good dribbler. But given where he's starting and the positions he's starting in, he's got more bodies centrally around him, so he's not able to showcase a lot of that dribbling talent. Rodolfo Pizarro, not the fastest, not necessarily the best, one-on-one dribbler. They don't have a way to regularly find dynamic ways to quickly hit when they're attacking. And then they also don't have anyone to pull the strings as the 10. So they're missing some elements there in that middle of the field. I think that's the biggest issue. There are things on the defense. We saw Inter Miami get exposed a few times when they got hit on the counter. When they lost the ball, there was one play where I just remember DeAndre Yedlin trying to biting very hard on a fake cross or a fake shot and soaring in the air. He hasn't had a good start to preseason from the 2 games out of the 3 that we've been able to see. He also did start a bit later, so there are questions at the back. I think, to answer the question I posed to you guys, I think Noah Allen was the standout. I thought Gregory was okay. I didn't think he looked too bad there. And then from there, Lasser was all right as well. Campana hustled, but yeah, not a whole lot. Not a whole lot. As for, let's quickly go to the second. And I'm sure this
now
is
we're
going to
gonna fight. Prepare yourself,
well,
listeners. Now
we only have a
going
couple
to
things to talk
fight.
about. We only have a couple things to talk about here. We're not going to fight because there's only one answer here, and you guys are going to. I think you guys are just reluctant to accept it, even though it's staring you in the face. But anyway, all right. When Inter Miami made the lineup changes in the start of the third period, the second set of 60 minutes, and they switched the formation, and Phil Neville. Us three, the trio here, we were trying to figure out for a good little bit what the formation was. We kept going back and forth about what it was until then I was like, you know what? No, this is a 5-3-2. Andrea and Jose pretty strongly disagreed. They thought it was what did you guys think it was? It was a 4-4-2? Is that what you guys thought it was?
I don't even remember what we thought it was.
Well, you guys thought it was 4 at the back.
4-3-3.
So 4-3-3. That's what you think. Okay. It was not a 4-3.
4 on the back.
It was definitely not a 4-3-3 because Harvey Neville. Go ahead.
For you guys to start fighting, because I'm going to be listening for a while, I guess.
Oh, you were the one being like, oh, I mean that on Saturday Jose could not stop. He's like, Franco, how could you not see it? It's clear as crystal. Now he wants to be because now I think Jose has realized.
I have moved on.
Yeah, because you've realized that you did not get the formation correct. But okay.
No, I would say this: they were not very well organized, and I think I told you guys this.
You did say that.
Mm-hmm.
They were not very well organized. It was hard to figure it out because first off, Harvey was playing. Harvey was playing in the middle of the field, left side. He was not a left back.
Right. He was a left wing back.
Well, it was. I don't know.
It was not even that. I think that is why I can accept
Ah.
it was a back five because it's not leaving a wing back. He was like lost there.
It was very messy.
So
it was just very messy because Kieran Gibbs was right behind him.
No.
Yes.
No.
And so be it, but he was right behind him.
No.
At times even overlapping him.
No. Never did he overlap. You never saw Kieran Gibbs and no.
It happened.
That never happened, Jose. Listen.
And I'm gonna say something. We might never find out until we speak to Phil again because not Franco, not me, and not Jose. We couldn't see him
Andrea,
in the media availability. And no one asked.
Andrea, you listen. We initially said it was when we were trying to figure it out that it was like a 4-4-2 and that Harvey Neville was playing like left midfield because he was very abierto, very open and wide out to the left. And we're like, oh, but he's never really played there before, but I guess maybe because of the personnel, that's where he's playing. And we thought it was a 2-forward formation, which it was. They stayed with 2 strikers. Harvey Neville was not a winger because they didn't have. If Harvey Neville was playing left wing, who was playing right wing? There was no right wing. So this was a 5-3.
De La Cava was playing.
No, he was playing as one of the 2 strikers with Robinson.
Yeah, but he was playing more to the side, more like a winger.
Andrea, this was a 5-3-2 with the wing backs pushed very far up to help that midfield. Because the midfield trio, again, Stefanelli, Cremashi, and Ulloa, that was your midfield triangle. And then the width was supposed to be supplied by the wing backs, which again, were Boatwright and Harvey Neville. Now, whether it worked or didn't work, again, hard to really analyze because it's a team that you can't imagine has had very many, if any, reps together as a group. But this was a 5-3-2. And Stefanelli, when he was talking post-game, and we were able to talk to him for a few minutes, he said, Los tres del medio. Clearly implying that there was only 3 midfield players.
That is what we are saying. We are saying 4-3-3.
Andrea, Harvey Neville was not playing as a forward. If you genuinely think Harvey Neville was playing as a forward, then I don't know what game you're watching. Because he was not even close to being in that attacking third and taking up those positions. Was he taking more advanced positions than a left back? Yes, but that's why he's a left wing back. There's differences there.
He was not a. He was.
Anyone that plays on that.
He was playing in Pizarro's natural position as a volante de ataque.
He was Andrea. He was a wing back. Anyone who plays on the outside part of the defense.
Like Stefanelli said it to you, and you cannot agree.
He didn't say anything. He said there's three in the midfield.
We didn't get to the game, so I think we're confusing everybody here because what are really people thinking right now if they were not able to watch the game?
The system. To me, I think it's a talking point.
The biggest takeaway is that he changed the formation.
Right, that formation. I think that fight. We've seen Phil Neville play with three center backs before, so the fact that the second group played that, or if you guys don't want to call it that, the fact that he has a different formation is that he already has one that they've been working on. Because I don't think he just changes it all up just because.
They need to have more than one.
Oh, of course. Yeah. But now we know what another one is.
Let's say this is a 5-3-2. How can we make this work with everybody available, right? You would assume Negri will be the left wing back, Yedlin on the right side, and then you'll have to play
Mavica, McVeigh, and Sergii.
And Sergii, Sailor is injured, so it will be Mavica.
Or Gibbs. Mm-hmm. Gibbs was playing. Listen, this is information. I will share this with you and I'll share this with the listeners. And I should have probably said this before. Kieran Gibbs, I know this as information from sources, has played at center back during this preseason. So while he can play left back and he has played left back, he's also been used. He's also been used as a center back with Inter Miami. Uh-huh. Yeah, and that goes back to last year. Kieran Gibbs at moments last year played at center back at some points. And if you remember, during one preseason game that they played against, I think Columbus, or one of the three games that they played in Charleston, that he got injured in, he came in as a center back. So he was playing as a center back here. He's an option there. He's experienced. He's on the roster.
Well, to be honest, I'd rather play Gibbs out of position as a center back than Sailor or Mavica. So, that might work. And that might be the only way to keep Kieran Gibbs on the field for an extended period of time.
Maybe he gives you a little bit mejor salida. Maybe he gives you a little bit more of a cleaner build out because he's got a better touch.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so
he has better technique.
Out of center back for sure. He'll give you a lot more pace. He'll be able to keep up with some of the.
I don't know about that.
He will. If one
after
thing
all the injuries,
Gibbs,
I don't know. After all the injuries, I don't know.
If there's one thing that Kieran Gibbs has had his whole career, and listen, I'm an Arsenal fan, so I know him all his professional life, is that. So I think that could work, and we could see him playing that position. But I don't know. Then you add another player playing out of position, so. I don't know.
Some players transition into different positions as they get older and into later stages of their career. This is the last thing I'll say on the 5-3-2. Because the roles, while similar, are not exactly the same. Look, there's fullbacks, right? Defenders that play on the outside. Laterales. Right? Wingbacks and right or left backs, those are all fullbacks. They're all laterales. But if you're a wingback, a right wingback or a left wingback, where you play further up the field but you still have defensive responsibilities, that's a carrilero. You are no longer a right back. Now you're a right wingback. And it's a subtle difference, but there is a difference. And I forget which South American coach explained this, maybe last year, maybe 2 years ago. Like, he broke up the percentages of attacking versus defending in those positions. And he's like, when you're a right back, he's like, 40% of your responsibility... or 30% of your responsibility is to attack, 70% is to defend. When you're a wing back, it's the other way. 70% to attack, 30% to defend. So that gives you an idea. Like the wing backs and the full backs, regardless of the formation, with what we've seen so far in this preseason, that's where Inter Miami wants its width to come from. Because the diamond midfield is narrow. Pizarro and Taylor are not opening up wide and combining on the outside. They're playing inside in the middle to combine with Gregory and whoever's at the 10 right now, Coco Jean. So that's what we've seen so far. The width is coming from the outside. Whether you want to call them, fullbacks in the 4 or wingbacks in the 5. All right, let's leave it there. We didn't even really talk about Stefanelli's performance, but we'll leave that for our final thoughts, as well as talk about the upcoming game against the Revolution. So we'll take a quick break. We'll come back and do the Q&A session and our final thoughts. We'll do that after this. All right, guys, Q&A time. Again, we got a lot of questions. We'll only dive into a few here. So, if we don't get to yours this week, don't get discouraged. We're trying to rotate around and get to as many as possible on a weekly basis, but obviously we have some time constraints that we're trying to work under, so bear with us here. Bear with us. We'll tighten up the first segment to try to get to more questions maybe, going forward. But all right, first question from Don Cafecito. It's in Spanish. He asks, él pregunta, ¿cuándo volverán a hacer un podcast en español? El episodio que Franco hizo con el señor peruano hace un par de años estaba bueno. Hay que volver a invitarlo. So, to translate, the question is, when are you guys going to do another podcast in Spanish? The episode that Franco did with the Peruvian guy a couple of years ago was very good. Got it. You guys should invite him again. I only remember doing a Spanish podcast once on Miami Total Football Radio's existence, and that was with you, Jose. So unless Don Cafecito is convincing or confusing you for being Peruvian, I don't know who he's talking about. I mean, I've made appearances on other people's podcasts, and definitely some Peruvians out there, but I haven't had anybody on Miami Total Football Radio as a guest that's been strictly Spanish that's Peruvian. Only you. And you're clearly not Peruvian.
No, but I'll be 1% Peruvian in a couple of days when I eat some lomo saltado.
we'll leave that. We'll leave that inside joke for a future episode because we can't get into all of that right now. We can't get into all of that.
Okay.
I have said, and I haven't been good on my word that I would like to do a once a month Miami Total Football radio show in Spanish with Jose and Andrea. I do love talking about football in español. That's why we try to make this bilingual and try to use terms in Spanish. Not only because we're in South Florida, but because I do enjoy talking about football in Spanish. Like the terminology is more defined. There's more way to describe things. I would love to do it. We have to try to find the time to do it in because we all have 3 different schedules and not the easiest. So, but definitely something I would like to do a little bit more of. So, all right. Next question from Twitter. Would anyone have cared if Indy celebrated after his goal? Players should celebrate a goal when they don't know when the next one may come. Indy didn't even have a choice leaving. I can be happy for a former Inter Miami player scoring against us, but Inter Miami just needs to win those games. Jose, this one's all yours. You saw the goal. You said, wow, left you with your jaw on the ground, as I mentioned before. Do you care to answer the question of would anyone have cared if Indy celebrated after that goal? It was a stunning goal.
I don't think people would have cared just because Indiana, he was, he was not, how do I say this nicely? He was not overly impressive in his time with Inter Miami. But I can understand, the reasoning behind not celebrating. I think he's just being respectful, thankful. It's a friendly. There's no reason to, go overboard and start, celebrating. It was early in the game as well, so it could have happened after. So yeah, I can understand. Then, and I do agree. They have to start winning in preseason. It's important. It's important to win a game or two. It last year. Remember, they won the Carolina Challenge Cup. Was that it?
Yes.
And they went into the season with some excitement and
some positivity.
I think that every team needs that. So I think they'll eventually win a game or two in preseason. So
I mean, they did win one. They beat FIU.
That doesn't count.
Yeah, if they want us to count it, they should have let us watch it.
Yeah.
All right. Andrea, this one's for you. And it's from someone that I don't believe has ever asked a question before. IMCF_, which obviously Inter Miami Club de Futbol _Gio. Does the team do a good job marketing / advertising themselves in places other than Miami and Fort Lauderdale? I live in Palm Beach County and never see any type of marketing. Thanks! ! Love the pod despite the hot takes. Laughing emoji and another laughing emoji with the sweat on its forehead.
Love it. Well, I don't think the team does a good job with that. And not only north in Palm Beach, but also south of Miami in Homestead. I don't think they do a good job. I think they should do a better job because, listen, if you want to be a big team here in this community in South Florida, you have to take care from West Palm Beach onto Homestead like other teams do, like the Dolphins, like the Miami Heat. So you need to build that. And I feel that the team is lacking. I have seen some initiatives here and there, but I feel like that they are lacking, and it's an area that could bring a lot of fans because many people football live there. Many Latinos live there. There are large communities of Latinos living in Palm Beach and also in Homestead. So I think Inter Miami is lacking in that department, and it's something that I would love to see them get better because it's a South Florida team. So they should do better. I hope they do better for their sake, and bringing people from Palm Beach and from other places, not only south and west, but south and north, but from the west, could also benefit the team, could also benefit the attendance, because let's remember that Inter Miami has the lowest attendance in the MLS. So hopefully this season, it's something that they work on, and they work in bringing these people that live north, south, and west from Fort Lauderdale and Miami.
Okay, we'll leave.
That's a budget situation as well, right? I mean, they have to put more money into it. Is there a lot of money to put into, the marketing of the team in areas outside of Miami and Fort Lauderdale? I don't know.
I think it's strategic. That's what I think.
I don't know. I would say, but
I think that they think that the core group, that they need to put more of their efforts into the core group, which they think is in Broward and Miami-Dade. That's what I think. Just my opinion. That's not inside information. Just my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think the same, but I think that's a mistake because there are a lot of communities that you're living. So you cannot become a great team in this area of the country when you ignore almost half of the population living here. So hopefully they do better. Hopefully this season they do better. Listen, they have attractive players for marketing, like in Homestead, for example, that you have a large Mexican community. They should go market Rodolfo Pizarro there so that people can go and watch him in the stadium. They don't do that. They should go market in Palm Beach other players that are interesting for the team, for the communities there. They don't do that. So hopefully it will get better. And the team
should be a spot.
Lakeland, exactly. Lakeland, you have a lot of Latinos there, and I've heard this is not the first. This is a really good question, and that I like because it's not the first time that I've gotten this comment, especially from people in Palm Beach. But hopefully the team takes notice on that and acts on it, because they should include everyone. They should include everyone in South Florida, because this is the only professional team in MLS that South Florida has in MLS. So they should do it.
Okay, well that does it for our Q&A session. We'll leave it there. We have final thoughts, and I think this is going to be an final thoughts extra time because there were still some pieces of juicy nuggets that we did not really dive into. So I'll start. We saw Nicolas Stefanelli make his debut in that game. He only played 30-minute period. That first 30-minute period. Sorry, well, I'm going to confuse the listeners like that. He played the third 30-minute period. So the first one with the second group, and he played as an 8. And it's his first preseason game, and you can see that he has some good ideas. I don't know if that's his best position, but it's early. It's only 30 minutes. And with a team that didn't perform all that well. So we'll see. Look, he said in his pre-game press conference when he was presented formally on Friday, I asked him, what's his playing style? And because he had said he has played all different types of positions in his career. But when he was describing his style of play, when I asked him to describe his style of play, did he sound like a 10 or an 8 to you?
A 10.
You thought he sounded like a 10?
I'd say it. Yeah.
I thought he sounded like a forward when he's saying, me gusta hacer los diagonales, so he likes to make diagonal runs, which you make diagonal runs in behind the defense. That's not necessarily a responsibility or a function of a 10. That's a striker or a forward, a winger, someone that plays that front line. So interesting. Something to keep an eye on. Something that bears watching.
I think it's more like maybe a punta, right? One of those modern version of a 10 that is not necessarily a player that. Yeah, he's not like Pozuelo but he'll be a 10 that will take the position in the middle, but he might overlap the striker every now and then, and then he'll look more like a striker at times.
Right, not quite a 10, not quite a 9, a 9.5.
Yeah.
So that was quick thoughts on Stefanelli. Negri, Franco Negri. Again, going back to that 5-3-2 talk that we had at the end of the first segment here, when he was asked about his playing style, he said, he likes to attack and defend, and he really likes to attack. That's why, he's also played some left winger or some left midfield earlier in his career. He said he's comfortable playing as both a wing back and a full back. So I'm even more convinced after hearing that and then seeing what we saw on Saturday that the 5-3-2 is a very realistic system that we could see Inter Miami deploy this year under Phil Neville, especially once Franco Negri, who is expected to get minutes alongside Joseph Martinez, alongside Gene Mota as well on Thursday against the New England Revolution, which is another final thought because Inter Miami has another game in Sarasota. They've taken an away trip. So, this will be the time for them to bond a little bit more. Something Phil Neville touched on. This will be a time to integrate some of the new guys into the culture a little bit more. So, that I think the trip is good for the team. I think that they do need to. I don't know if they need to win, and they don't need to win. It's preseason, but I think they need to perform better, and they need to score another goal. So there we go. Jose, your final thoughts.
I'll take my final thought, and I'll add a question that a listener sent to me personally on my Twitter account. Rene Vallejo was kind enough to send, and I'll take that as my final thought. He's asking about, if Inter Miami gets, by them signing the new center back, if that will be it for Inter Miami. And, I think they have a very deep roster. I think they do have 2 players per position right now. Right now, they have at least 2 players for every position. So I would say they might be done with the role players, but I think they're obviously missing a designated player. So whether they add one more player right now or during the summer, I think they'll still add one more piece to the roster. So that will be it for me.
I agree that they're missing a number 10. I agree. I think that they're I like the pieces they've added. I just think that they're missing a big difference maker. They need one difference maker in there, an additional, and I don't think that they have that yet. So, Andrea, your final thought.
Well, I wanted to say, continue talking about the scrimmage we saw, the friendly match we saw. I wanted to say that Ascona came off injured with what appeared to be a muscular injury. We have to watch out for that because he was, for me, one of the best or one of the highlights, I think for all 3 of us, one of the highlights in the second half against Vasco da Gama. We didn't see him a lot in this game, unfortunately, but another highlight that I wanted to ask is that I really like Israel Bolt, right? I think this player, who is currently now with Inter Miami too, but I think this is a player that we're going to see a lot this year, and I think he's going to get opportunities. He's gotten chances in these 2 games that we have seen, and I really think it's a player that is going to build up, and it could be a good asset for Inter Miami in the future. He's also like Ascona playing in the World Cup, under-20 World Cup later this year. So I think that player is going to be one bright spot for Inter Miami this year.
I'm going one more. I'm adding a last final thought. I'm getting 3 in here because we didn't really talk about the newcomer in a whole lot of detail. And that is Sergii Kryvtsov. And 31-year-old center back has some good experience playing with Shakhtar Donetsk, a big club in the Ukraine. He's officially signed. He was officially presented, spoke to the media, not only about joining Inter Miami, but also about, the war in Ukraine and, how that impacted him and his family. So touched on some interesting things during his introductory press conference. I haven't seen a whole lot of him, but given his profile in terms of his age, not surprised that they went. And I thought they would do this even before. I didn't hear this, but I had thought they would do this before the press release came out. I thought it would be a 2-year deal with an option for a third if he really excels. I think he's maybe someone they see as a good piece, but a short-term piece just because of his age. So, he's about to turn 32 in March, if I'm not mistaken. So, he'll be 34 when his 2-year deal runs out. So, I think they'll planning for the long term that they'll be ready to move on there unless he's really, really excelling at that point in his career. But I do think he'll provide, and again, I haven't seen him play, but I do think he'll provide some muscle back there, as well as maybe a little bit more composure than what they had. At least that's what Inter Miami's hoping for. So we'll see. We'll see when he steps on the field in a game that we can watch. Clearly, he's going to be a very big part of this team this year because of his experience on a back line that, if you look at the starters, I guess Yedlin does have experience, but there's a need for a leader there, and I think Kryvtsov is the player that is being looked at as the solution or the answer. So, that does it for this week's show. We went longer again than we wanted to, but that's okay. We had a lot to talk about once again. We'll continue to work on it to get better, just as Inter Miami is during this preseason. So, for Jose Armando, for Andrea Yanez, I am Franco Panizo. You have been listening to Miami Total Football Radio. I'll talk to you guys again next week.